Oh shit. Here we go again.
You know, I had a lot of hope for this Daredevil Born Again, but episodes 6 and 7 is just the epitome of dumbass writing. In episode 6, you had them finding out that Muse killed a bunch of people, and now Fisk wants to make a task force for vigilantes, which is stupid because there weren't too many vigilantes that were being named. Daredevil hasn't been Daredevil for most of the series, and the only vigilante you really had was White Tiger, which was in the first few episodes, and that got summed up because of the way they ended his storyline. What other prominent vigilantes that are making an actual difference? You might hear a one-off here and there, but it's nothing significant. They're not doing anything significant to warrant. But when they get word about a serial killer, now you want to start a vigilante force? That was your motivation? He's not even a vigilante, he's a serial killer. There's a difference. So, yeah, this writing makes no sense. The through storylines are paper thin. This paper thin character writing, paper thin build up, suspense, paper thin fighting. I mean, you have the fight scene in episode 6 where Daredevil shows up to fight Muse. It's cut up too much. There's too many cuts of the fight scene. It's not the old, hey, we're going to get it in this one shot where everything matches up. Oh my gosh, it's unbearable. And I don't know who threw in this plot line with White Tiger's niece, Angela or whatever her name is on this dead set venture to take up White Tiger's mantle. It's like you're 15 or however old you are in school. You weigh all of 100 pounds. There's nothing you can do about it, and there's no actual motivation for you to do anything. White Tiger had his own motivations, but you as a child, you really didn't even share in his life. There was nothing that said, hey, I shared in your life, I commit to that, and that's what I'm gonna be when I grow up. It's just so shoehorned in. She's taking quotes from her uncle, like, don't rely on someone to do something for you that you can do for yourself. But she can't do anything for herself at this point in time. You can't go beat up bad guys. And again, why do you fucking care about all these people that's coming up missing? It's not like she comes off as an activist, or she had an experience from what I remember, because these characters are so paper thin, and the dialogue is just, it's not atrocious, but it's very close. It's very weak, and it's not compelling. It's not grabbing my attention. I rewound this episode 6 where she was talking to Matt in the conference room. I rewound it like 3 times to make sure I'm not missing anything because of how stupid she sounds when she's trying to tell Matt that he needs to do something about these people going missing. News break. Matt's a lawyer. He's not a police officer. So near the end of this episode 6, Muse catches Angela and takes him back to his lair. Angela's mom calls Daredevil and says, hey, do you know where my daughter is? I don't know what happened to her. And it's just like, what? Why are you calling a lawyer? She literally said, I don't know. I didn't know who else to call. How about the police? Because the police will handle missing people. The lawyer has nothing to do with that. This shit is so mind-boggling as to how they're having other characters lay shit in Daredevil's lap to push him, to motivate him to become himself again. And that's what like the kind of the episode was, of motivating him to become who he is underneath, and it didn't work. So then you have Daredevil saying fuck it after Angela's mom calls him. He said he's gonna do something about it. Then he calls the police and then hangs up and says fuck it, I'll do it myself. Does this weird ass jump off the roof and over the rooftops. It didn't look well whatsoever. I mean, I'm all for the comic book shit, but in that instance, the way it was edited, I think it didn't look right. We're back in Muse's lair. He's sticking the blood-sucking machine into Angela's leg. Daredevil shows up out of the fucking clear blue sky. No word on how he found his lair. There wasn't a scene of, hey, I found some clothing. I got a sample of the paint that he used, so I sniffed it out. I used my incredible high-tuned senses. There was nothing like that. He just fucking pops up at his lair. Like, how the fuck did you know this? You didn't know where she was. She didn't have her phone on. Nobody could track her phone. At least give us something to say how you got there. In this episode and in the next episode 7, he just magically pops up places. So when Daredevil gets here, he starts fighting with Muse. He should overpower Muse because up until this time, Muse is he's not a fighter. He creeps in the shadow and takes people. He hasn't been shown to be a fighter or a formidable fighter. Daredevil been doing this shit his whole life. So there's no comparison here. Or at least if there was, you should have showed it. You should have used episode 5. You should have used the bank robbery episode to showcase Muse. You should have gave him a backstory, showed his fighting ability or something. But Muse, we're not shown any fighting prowess up until now. So he's fighting with Daredevil and holding his own. What are we talking about? And Daredevil has 3 times where he could have pulled out the blood-sucking machine, and he doesn't do it. He stands every time he knocks Muse down or stuns him or whatever. He walks over and stares at the thing instead of just pulling it out. But then after he beats him, damn near hangs him, then he goes and just pulls it out, which he could have done at any point in time in like 3 different instances. Muse gets up, leaves. I don't know how, because he got choked out and was unconscious. But okay, magically he can get up and just leave. He recovers. Daredevil saves her. She's taken to the hospital. That's the end of that shit. And then during this fight, mind you, at some point, Daredevil stands awkwardly and lets Muse take 3 good hits at him. And this causes Daredevil to scream in rage. It's like, okay, this is not working. There's no tension here. There was no build up to Muse. It wasn't no cat and mouse game to where he had to catch Muse and build up to, okay, he bested me here and bested me there. There was none of that. So for him to sit here and roar in frustration was just fucking retarded. So moving on to episode 7, which is about Kingpin and Daredevil back to their old ways. And in this episode, we get a small little stupid ass backstory about Muse. And in this episode, for some reason, Muse shows up at Matt's girlfriend's house, starts telling her weird shit, starts acting weird. She gets a vibe that he's the killer for some reason. He ends up pretty much coming out to her like, hey, yeah, it's me. I'm the killer. You know who I am. And she gets all freaked out. She gets tied up. Daredevil goes back to the hospital, questions Angela, and she tells him that he had pictures. So Daredevil goes back to the crime scene. While there are police officers there, he doesn't wait till they're all gone and the coast is clear. He drops down as one of the officers just leaves to go through some papers. The officer comes back. This man hits him with the baton and knocks the detective out. And it's just like, what? Since when? Since when is he hitting somebody with one hit of a baton? Throwing, mind you, not like taking it and hitting him in hand. He threw it at him, hit him in the head, and he passed out. What are we doing here? So then Daredevil finds that his girlfriend is the one that Muse is going after. And so he rushes over there. But back at the therapist's office, his girlfriend's office, Muse has tied her up to get her blood. The cops show up with sirens blaring, all that. A few minutes go by, Daredevil busts through the window. Now, how in the fuck does he bust through the window after the cops show up? We have an editing issue here, okay? It should have been, they could have, at the very least, you could have re-edited that shot to where Devil comes busting in, the cops show up, and they have to get in. But no, we get this. The cops come in first, blaring their sirens. Daredevil swings in afterwards. Nobody mentions that, he swings in from the outside of the building, on the side that the cops are on, busts through the window, and not one of them saw him. This is in broad daylight. So after he does that, they start fighting. The cops are downstairs saying that they have to breach the building. Mind you, it's a multi-unit building. We're in New York. So the building manager or somebody should have been downstairs at some point to open the front door of the fucking building. There's no reason that they should have had to breach the downstairs door. The only thing you should have had to breach was the door to the actual therapist's office. And they didn't even do that when they got up there. So Daredevil and Muse are fighting. He knocks him around. The therapist, his girlfriend, ends up getting up and shooting Muse to death before passing out. Daredevil goes to her aid and whatever, and is like, hey, it's going to be all right, blah, blah, blah. He leaves. We cut to a night scene where Wilson Kingpin Fisk comes up to the therapist's office. For some reason, he's there and wants to be there. And not only does he show up, Muse's body is still there. There's no police tape off of anything. He's not coming in with gloves. Neither does the officer he walks in with. Does he come in with gloves? The scene's not taped off. Nothing. Body's not covered up. It's pure retardedness that this is how they are writing this show. So Kingpin shows up with the cop of the vigilante squad. The cop goes, yeah, there was a struggle and we can tell that Daredevil was here with no evidence. No evidence. Do you hear me? They didn't mention that they found a grappling hook wound in his shoulder. They could have mentioned that, or they could have mentioned the fact that he lost another horn or something, or when he got cut, a piece of red Kevlar fell off or some shit. He just goes off of, yeah, there was a tussle, the room was pretty messed up, and we know it was him. I mean, what is the writing in this show? And then let's not talk about the fact that the therapist has a fucking gun in the office. Why does a therapist have a gun in the office? And you mean to tell me the police show up to kick in the door in broad daylight to come get the therapist, and no one saw Daredevil leave in broad daylight in a red costume? The building is surrounded. Nightfall, okay, I can give you that. Fucking broad daylight, I don't buy that one. I mean, you're already asking me to stretch the imagination. I just can't stretch it that far. I've stretched too much to give that some leeway. But all in all, I give credit to the actors, mainly Daredevil and Kingpin, for putting in a pretty decent performance in the shitty script that they have to read off of. Like, the storylines ain't adding up. They have a sub storyline of one of the mob bosses who want to take Kingpin's place, which is, it's dumb and goes nowhere. He ends up dying, and it's not written well. We don't spend any time with these characters, no one wanting to know what this mob boss really wants and how he just pops up here and there just to say, hey, what about this? What about that? You see him probably 3 times throughout this series. I mean, yes, you can infer that, okay, he's a mob boss. He wants the standard thing, but no, there's always slight little different character motivations for them doing said thing. And we don't get that in this series. More than likely, I'll finish this series, but after this, I'm not giving anything. If they revamp anything, if they have a Daredevil season 2, I will not be there. I'm off the Marvel train. Doomsday is coming up, and I'm skeptical about that. I'll do a video on that because I got a lot of shit to say. But that's it for now. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I'll talk to you later.